Please be seated. And thank you very much, worship leaders and group. Let's thank them. Wasn't that beautiful? Thank you. Oh, that was very moving to see, wasn't it? It was very moving to see. St. Augustine wrote, "You cannot have God as your father without having the church as your mother." So, can I reiterate that if you have chosen Trinity to be your home church, then become a member. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about faith and the church. That's what I do. I explain what the faith is. And because today, so many people's understanding of Christianity and of the church is a misunderstanding. And that's why it's very, very important that we know what we believe and why we believe it. So I'm going to explain it to you now. What does it mean to be a Christian? And when I conclude, if you are not yet a Christian and would like to become one, I will give you that opportunity. If you used to be a Christian, but you've got distracted and diverted, I'm going to give you the opportunity to come back. And others of you this morning, as you listen, you might feel, I just need to rededicate my life to Jesus. And I will give you the opportunity to do that. And I will ask you all who want to do that to get up out of your seats, out of the rows, out from wherever, the balconies. Come, walk, and come and stand here at the front. Now, the reason I'm telling you that now is so that when I do tell you in 30 minutes' time, you're not going to be surprised. See, I don't like to surprise people. So now you can just sit, just enjoy the next 30 minutes, because some of you will have to do this in 30 minutes' time. What is Christianity? What is a Christian? Well, there are many different ways of explaining it. And in fact, if I was here for 10 nights on the trot, I could explain it to you in 10 different ways. But my favorite way of understanding it is to consider it as an invitation. Now, if you're anything like me, I'm sure you appreciate invitations. It's nice when you get an invitation, isn't it? It's nice. You think, they remembered me. It's nice. When you get an invitation to a wedding, or something like a wedding, you get the invitation card, and then at the bottom of the card, you find the letters RSVP. What do they stand for? There was this professor from Europe with his wife in England for a university semester. While they were there, they received a wedding invitation. Bottom of the card, RSVP. Now, they didn't have that code back in their country. So the professor was trying to crack the code. And then he says to his wife, yes. She said, what? And he said, RSVP. Remember some wedding present. The professor, he thought it was a demand, but actually it was an offer. Now, you and I, we know what those letters stand for. They're French. Which stand for Répondez s'il vous plaît, which means, are you going to come? And people put the date to reply by. And if you don't reply by the date, you can't go. Every single one of us now is going to be offered the Christian invitation, RSVP, Sunday, 20th of August, 2017. You're thinking, will I be offered it tomorrow? I don't know. You're saying, what do you mean you don't know? I don't know. And you're thinking, why doesn't he know? Listen, none of us can guarantee that we're going to be alive tomorrow. That's why it's very important to reply to the invitation while you're still alive. Have you got that? While you're still alive, reply to the invitation. Some people have an attitude, I will reply at the last minute. I will reply at the 11th hour. But what if you died at 10:30? It's too late. Reply while you have time. Now, when you get an invitation, there are 3 things you want to know. 1, who is it from? 2, who is it to? 3, what is it about? Let me answer those 3 questions. There's a very famous verse in the Bible. It's located in John's Gospel, chapter 3, verse 16. And it says this, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, so whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." That one sentence, it answers those 3 questions. Who's it from? Who's it to? What's it about? Who's it from? For God. It starts with God. G-O-D. Now, what does G-O-D mean? What does it mean? You know, it's very interesting that when the first Russian astronaut returned from space, first interview, first question, did you see God? He said, no, I did not. The Soviet Union heralded this as proof that God did not exist. When the first American astronaut returned from space, first interview, fourth question, did you see God? He said, I would have seen God had I stepped out of my spacesuit. Now, can you see how the Russian and the American had 2 different understandings of the word God? I find that today many people ask the wrong questions. Now, if you ask the wrong question, you can never get the right answer. Okay? So we've got to ask the right question. Now, the right question is, has God revealed himself? Has God communicated? Yes. According to the Bible, God revealed himself in creation. God revealed himself throughout history. But God's greatest revelation of himself for all people, for all cultures, for all times, was in Jesus. The invisible God became visible in Jesus. The intangible God became tangible in Jesus. The unknowable God became knowable in Jesus. Jesus, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. The invitation is from the creator of the universe, Jesus. Who to? For God so loved the world. Every single one of us, whoever we are, whatever our age, whatever the color of our skin, the invitation is to every single one of us. What is it about? The Bible has got 800,000 words in it. If you had to summarize what's it about, essentially, Christianity is about 3 things. Everything else in the Bible is commentary and application on these 3 principles. 1, forgiveness from the past. Do you agree with the following statement? There are problems in the world today. Do you agree? Of course. There are problems globally, socially, domestically, personally. And many governments of the world are doing everything they can to alleviate the symptoms. Now, if you are trying to alleviate the symptoms, you are always going to have the symptoms unless you deal with the root cause. So the question is this: what is the root cause of everything that is wrong in the world today? A mother said to her husband, look after their daughter because I need to get on. And the father said, okay. And he thought, what could he do to occupy his daughter? He's flicking through a magazine and he sees a map of the world. And he says to his daughter, watch what I'm going to do. He cut the map of the world into small squares. And he muddled the squares on the floor. And he said to her, I want you to put the squares back together again, like a puzzle, to make the map of the world. When you've done that, come and find me. So the father thought that'll keep her occupied. But within minutes, she says, Daddy, I've done it. He thought she couldn't have done it. He went to have a look, and all the squares were put in exactly the right place. He said, how did you know where to put the squares? She said, well, when you were cutting the map out, I looked on the other side and I saw a picture of a man and a woman. And I thought, if I can put the man and the woman back together again, I could put the world back together again. You see, the heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. Repeat that after me. The heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. Now, just turn to somebody and say it to them. The heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. Now, say that to somebody this week, randomly. You're at Starbucks. Just say it randomly and just see what their reaction is. The heart of the human problem is the problem of the human heart. We have a heart disease, a heart dis-ease, and it is out of the human heart that come the seeds that pollute our lives, our relationships, our families, our communities. It's out of the human heart. Let me illustrate it for you in a different way. Just imagine you passed out of this life. You woke up in a theater, sitting there on your own. In front of you is a huge screen. All of a sudden, the doors open. An angel flies in, comes up to you and says, welcome to the theater of judgment. Relax. Watch the screen. There on the screen, you see your life. Everything you ever did here on earth, everything you ever said here on earth, and everything you ever thought, you see it on the screen. At the end of the film, as you are recovering, the angel comes back and says, relax, there's going to be a second showing. All the people who were featured in the film of your life are all waiting outside. We're just going to let them in to view your life a second time. How would you feel if your life were judged on that basis? That is exactly how God judges us. In an instant. That's how we're judged. I don't know about you. Me, I would not want a private viewing, let alone a public viewing of my life. I don't need convincing. that I've thought, said, done things that I shouldn't have done. I mean, what film rating would you give your life? Be honest. Would it be suitable for family viewing? I mean, just your thought life, just what you think, would that be suitable for family viewing? You see, what we think, what we say, what we do has consequences, and it disconnects us from God. And it works a bit like an overdraft in a bank account. And if you have an overdraft, I have an overdraft, I cannot help you, you cannot help me. The only one who can help us is someone in credit. Jesus was the only one in credit. Jesus came into this world not to rub it in, but to rub it out. Jesus came into this world, for God so loved the world, for God so loved you and me, he came into this world to do something for us, to die on a cross. Why? Because by dying on a cross, it was as if he was cashing a check, signed with his own blood, to say, here's the check to clear your overdraft. There was a famous artist. He went back to the very small community where he was born and brought up. And he's just walking around looking at some of the shops, and he sees an antique store. He looks in the window. He cannot believe what he sees. In the window, there's one of his masterpieces. But it was a painting that he had painted years before he was famous. The frame was broken. The painting was dirty and scratched. But it was his. But he couldn't go into the antique shop and say, that's my painting. Give it back to me. He couldn't do that. If he wanted it back, he had to buy it back before he could clean it, restore it, reframe it. That's what Jesus did. Jesus bought you and me back so that we could be cleaned, restored, and reframed. That's what he did for us. You and I are being offered forgiveness from the past. Secondly, we are being offered new life today. For God so loved the world that Jesus came, Jesus, the life giver, Jesus who brought life in abundance. You and I are being given new life today. Today. The word Christian has got the word Christ in it. If you remove the word Christ from the word Christian, you're left with I-A-N. Ian isn't going to help you. Now, if there's anyone here called Ian, I'm sure you're a nice man. I'm sure you are, and I'm sure you might help me if I need a bit of help, but you're not going to change my life. You know, some people in Britain, I might be talking to a random person, and they discover that I'm a reverend. And then they go, oh, I'm a Christian. It's funny how they do that. They almost feel like they want to justify it. And they know Ian better than they know Christ. Listen, if you want to call yourself a Christian, you have to be connected to Christ. If you're not connected to Christ, then you're not a Christian. You've got to have a connection to Christ. You've got to have a relationship with Christ to be a Christian. Now, if you're not connected with Christ, you don't know Christ, in a few minutes, I will give you the opportunity to get connected with Christ. But for the majority of us here today, I assume you would say, yes, I am Christian. I am. Okay, now think of your life like a car, okay? As an analogy. Using that analogy, to be a Christian means Christ is in your car. Okay? So everyone here who thinks Christ is in my life, he is in the car. Let me ask you, where is he in the car of your life? Do you drive your car to church, unlock the boot or the trunk, get Jesus out for a religious happy hour? At the end of the service, get back in there. No one the rest of the week would know that you're a Christian. You don't treat your wife like a Christian. You don't treat your kids like a Christian. You don't treat your colleagues or your employees like a Christian. You see, sometimes it's very easy to say, yes, Christ is in my life. And you express it once a week when you come here. Others of you are going, no, J. John, no. He's in the car. Where? On the back seat. A bit of a passenger. No, you're saying. In the front passenger seat. In other words, more of a companion, but still a passenger. Or is Jesus in the driving seat? Now, every one of you that thought, yes, he's in the driving seat of the car of my life, I have one more question for you. Are you a backseat driver? The car gets to an intersection. Jesus turns left. Where are you going? I'm going down the road of generosity. I don't want to be generous. Or it gets to another intersection. Jesus turns right. Where are you going? I'm going down the road of forgiveness. I'm not going to forgive her. You see, it's very easy, isn't it, to say, he's in my car. Is he in the driving seat? How do we know he is? One way is to ask some questions. If he's in the driving seat, it means he's first. F-I-R-S-T. Ask 5 questions. Is he first, F, in my finances? Is he first in my finances? If I'm a Christian, I will tithe. It's a non-negotiable. So if I'm not doing that, then it's like, whoa, he's not first. F-I. Is he first in my interests? R. Is he first in my relationships? S. Is he first in my schedule? T. Is he first in my troubles? If I can say that Jesus is first in my finances, interests, relationships, schedule, troubles, wow, that means he's first in your life. But if you cannot say that, it's a bit like a light that flashes on your dashboard in your car to tell you there's a problem. There's something wrong. And it may be that Jesus is in your life, but whether it consciously or unconsciously, he's become a passenger. And what you need to do is to reposition Jesus and put Jesus in the driving seat of your life. When you put Jesus in the driving seat of your life, his Holy Spirit fills you, and his Holy Spirit produces love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. And another way to find out whether he's first in your life is to ask yourself, how much love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control do I have? Because if I lack these, it means there's a blockage. And it probably means I need to reposition Jesus. So, some of you here today, you call yourselves Christians, he's in your life, but it might be today you need to get up from your seat, you need to come here and say, I need to reposition Jesus in my life. Forgiveness from the past, new life here today. Thirdly, a hope for the future. In a world of hopelessness, we can have hope in Jesus. Listen to what Jesus said. Men and women are traveling along one of two roads. Men and women are serving one of two masters. Men and women are building their lives on one of two foundations. Men and women are going into one of two doors. Men and women are heading towards one of two destinies. Why would Jesus say that? Why would Jesus divide people into two categories? You see, this is not a game. We're not playing Trivial Pursuits. This is about our destiny. In Jesus, we can have our hope for the future. The Bible says that the length of a good life is 70 years and 10. Now, 70 years and 10 is 70 years. Okay? Now, just allocate 10 years per day. Okay? 10 years for Monday, 10 years for Tuesday, 10 years for Wednesday. Okay? 10 years for every day of the week. Okay? Now, just journey with me through my life. I've already walked through Monday. I've walked through Tuesday. I've walked through Wednesday. I've walked through Thursday. I've walked through Friday. I've walked through Saturday morning. I've walked through Saturday afternoon. I'm Saturday night. How's your weekend looking? I'm Saturday night. Now, some people, they get given an extra Monday, 80 years. Some people are given an extra Tuesday, 90 years. Not many people are given an extra Wednesday, 100 years. But let's assume you get given 70 years and 10, 70 years, and you get given 3 extra days. So you live to 100. Do you realize that if you live to 100, that is a blip on the eternal screen? That's all it is. 100 years is just one blip on the eternal screen. For God so loved you, he gave Jesus to die for you, to bring you life, to give you forgiveness, new life, and a hope, so that you don't have to perish, but you can have eternal life. Listen, if it cost Jesus his blood to get us there, it must be worth going there. You and I, we can have a hope for the future if we are willing to go via King's Cross. If you want to have a hope for the future, you've got to go via King's Cross. And if you're willing to go via King's Cross, you can have a hope for the future. What is Christianity? Christianity is an invitation. Who from? Jesus. Who to? You and me. What's it about? Forgiveness from the past, new life here today, and a hope for the future. RSVP, Respondez s'il vous plaît. What have you done with your invitation? What would you like to do with your invitation? If you've accepted the invitation, and if Jesus is first in your life, and he's in the driving seat, then you become the invitation. You know, wherever you go, everyone you interact with, you're a representative of Jesus, and you become the invitation. Some of you have not accepted the invitation. And in a few minutes, I'm going to ask you to get up out of your seat, out of the aisles, and I'm going to ask you, just as the members, the new members of the church came and stood here, I'm going to ask you to come and stand here as your way of saying, I want to accept my invitation to connect with Jesus. Some of you, you used to be Christians, but you got distracted, diverted, derailed. And what you need to do is now realign, restore with Jesus. And you need to come. Some of you, you are Christians. You call yourselves Christians. You might even be committed members of Trinity. But this morning you've realized, I think Jesus is a passenger. And I need to reposition Jesus into the driving seat of my life. And you come and do that this morning. Could I ask, please, the worship leaders and the worship team to come? We're going to sing Amazing Grace. I love Amazing Grace. I always like reading the history of why a song came together. And Amazing Grace was written by John Newton. And what was amazing about him was that he said this. This is what he said. He said, I broke all of God's commandments. I was a liar, a deceiver, a cheat, an adulterer, and I was a murderer. But then I encountered Jesus. And I had this experience of grace, undeserved love, undeserved favor, undeserved. And I experienced grace and forgiveness. And he says, it was amazing. Amazing. And he tried to express it in the words of Amazing Grace. He was a slave trader. And afterwards he became a pastor. And he mentored William Wilberforce, the man who abolished slavery. The story continues. Could you all please stand? So we're going to sing it in just a moment. It's only a few verses. As we begin singing it, if you want to accept the invitation, if you want to realign your life back with Jesus, if you want to reposition Jesus in the driving seat, then you come. If you want to come with a friend or a relative, that's absolutely fine. You come. Look, I know what this feels like. I've been in this situation myself. You know, we have human thoughts. You might be thinking, I'm in the middle of a road. How can I get out? Well, you just move. Honestly, people know where you're going. And they'll make way for you. And if they don't, you just push them. Get out. I'm going. I'm going. Let me get. Just get out. And come here. Stand here with the whole of your being saying, yes. Then what is going to happen at the end? I will pray a prayer. I will ask you to pray this prayer. Then I will pray for you. And then what we're going to do, someone's going to pray for you, and we're going to give you the church is going to give you some resources. That's what we're going to do. Just encourage you on your journey. So, thank you. Amazing Grace, as we begin singing it, now's your opportunity. Come now. Come.